Yeah, it's kind of like Black River. But I am very happy to forget to thank you. 60%.
Getting there.
Yeah, I know. We can't minimize.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even start that meeting, but she. You can override it. We gotta make it big.
Yeah. And.
I'm saying, I'm standing in the combination of.
Oh, really?
So Dan, this is everybody. We've got other new members. It's gonna be-
Welcome, please sign in. All right, so when we get started here, the first thing we're gonna do is just identify ourselves to a few members, and we're gonna start with you explaining it, but we're gonna start with you. And we're just gonna. Just go ahead and sign in, we're gonna get going here. You didn't like that chair? Oh. All right. We got a lot to cover tonight, so let's get going. My name is Dan Sefco, and with me tonight is Derek Craycraft and Eddie Haas. And thought what we would do is just, there's a few new members this evening, so I know most of y'all know each other, but just in case some of the new members don't know the old members, let's just go through and just quickly identify yourselves and how you're related to the process here. And we'll start with you.
Hi, as always, because I sit in front. Dave Seeloff, I'm on city council, okay, C5.
Okay. Mary, you want to go next?
Mary Goldsmith, been on the city council for 3 terms, many years ago, and, longtime resident of Fort Wayne. Joe Kruger, city council.
John Lucas, I'm on the CPAC, I've been concerned since. Stephen Wilson, just nominated on CPAC, so welcome to you.
Welcome. Joan Holt, just got off the city council. But very much involved and interested in it.
Kathy Fulton, and I'm on the Old Town Committee. And involved with other things before that.
I'm Sharon McKinney. I'm the CPAC member, Superintendent School District.
Tim Park City Council, CPAC member. I'm Brett Stingler, I'm a CPAC member and Tourism Bureau and Chamber of Commerce.
Karen, I'm the city council. I'm the chamber, city council.
Mike Dayon, I'm on planning and building committee. Josh, my planning zone.
Mayor. Mayor.
And then Nicole and David.
Staff.
Staff. All right. Okay, we got a lot to cover tonight, but what I thought we would do is before we turn it back over to you all, let me just run through this slideshow. It's not very long, but it kind of sets the table for what we need to get done tonight and a little history to start out for the new members. And so if you'll bear with me on that, we'll go through this and then we'll get down to business. But tonight, what we wanted to do is we're just gonna review the process briefly to catch everybody up and refresh. And then, but our main job tonight is to review the revision, the draft goals, objectives, and strategies. And then, of course, the group's discussion that goes with that. And then at the end, we'll recap and tell you what the next steps are in our mind. We have been going about 2 hours because that seems to be what everybody's pain threshold is, but we'll go as long as anybody wants to continue to participate. So what we're trying to do is on the goals, objectives, and strategies, we're trying to get a set of guiding principles that the term that I've been using is set the table for the open house. And I'm going to tell you when that is in a minute. And then what we're going to do is we're going to begin to draft a plan based on these guiding principles and goals, objectives, and strategies. Okay, so that's why they're real important. Okay, so this is the schedule. I'm going to go through this real quick, but you can see where we are tonight, and then I'll show you where we're going to end up here in a minute. But to recap, back in February, we had the first CPAC meeting. And if you remember, we met right at the same time as we had the first open house. And so we went through and we identified issues. And so we have 3 open houses designed or programmed into the process. The first one's this one. The next one is in September. The first one is you tell us what you think the issues are. The next one's going to be, do you agree that this is the guiding principles and what we need to do? And then the last one's going to be, this is what we've done. And do you like it? Okay. So at the first open house, we had it at the theater. We thought it was real good, well attended. If you remember, that was a chilly, willy night that was that we had. And we can remember that today as it's hot. But we had good participants. We also had a lot of online participants, and so we think a lot of you were there. So we thought that gave us a really good launch, and that's how we developed the initial set of these goals, objectives, and strategies. That's what we used. Okay. Then, if you remember, we had another meeting where we discussed what we had prepared. We took the first crack at it, and then you all looked at it, we presented it, and you made adjustments. We assigned some homework. And I'll tell you, some students got gold stars and some students didn't get stars. So let's just say that. But anyway, we had the second meeting, and then we even had a third meeting where we presented a document where we had all of the highlights and strikeouts of where we were. And if you remember, we had a lot of robust discussion. I'm going to tell you about some of the topics here in a minute. Okay, now from that, we have developed the goals, objectives, and the strategies that you now have. Everybody got them. You should have looked at them and you have them. But that's what we have. Now, let me just go through this real quick here, and I'll get you all ready to go on all this. But just by way of introduction to these things is that I still think, based on the input we've received and what we know, there's still some things that need further discussion. I'm going to leave it to you all to tell us what that is, but let me just run through here and give you some hints about what I think needs further discussion this evening. For example, I think we need to have discussion on what the boundary of the Old Town area is, and then what does it do? We have standards, we have guidelines. What is it that the Old Town area does and is? I think that's something to talk about. Let me run through this presentation and then we'll get into all this. And then there's some comments about what is it that we need to do? Is there other environmental areas that we need to protect? Are there other things that we need to discuss on the STRs, the short-term rentals? I think last time, you all correct me, I think we pretty much decided that we weren't going to restrict the number. That's what I remember. But are there other things that we need to do? Are there appropriate standards? Do we need to, you already have a parking requirement. Do we need to increase the parking requirements? Things like that. What is it that we need to do on the STRs? Okay. And so there's that. We've talked about, the entertainment things. We've also looked, just mentioned the short-term rentals. There's also, on the transportation end of it, there's some questions. We had some questions about, multimodal. But, Eddie, can you make you want to make, Eddie's our transportation planner. So if you want to make a few comments on that, to set the stage for that.
Yeah, so when we talk about multimodal, we're trying to maximize the use of road right of way for things other than just the cars, right? There's active transportation, which is sidewalks and bikes. So we start adding potential transit elements, that's when it becomes multimodal. So it's really anything that we can move people to and from, so that's what we're thinking about. So that,
Golf carts in there.
sorry,
Golf carts.
golf carts, micro mobility, the scooters, I don't know if the scooters. are-
Micro mobility is
No, it's not.
just a fancy name for scooters.
Yeah, so, that was what was talked about on the concept map. There was a corridors we were talking about, and circulator loops, things like that. We'll talk about that more in a minute.
Okay, so all this is up on the screen, but we could go back through those, but those are some of the ones that, that we need to talk about. So to refresh your memory, we talked a lot about Old Town and the boundary. This was the original boundary that the city had, originally drafted. And then we came in and, added, a different, boundary. We added the town square and decided that was the term for it. And then we expanded the Old Town area, larger. And so that's what it is now. That's what it is on this map. And so one question is that the right boundary? And really, what's the purpose of it? Okay, if we're gonna have this area, and I'm not being condescending here, but is it gonna be something different than just having a different color street sign? What is it, what is it? So really, we want it to have a good purpose in order to put it within the plan and really achieve what the community wants. We've talked about the marina. And so we put on here the location for the marina. I understand there's other issues that have been coming with TxDOT and other things that we may want to discuss tonight in this area, all this area up in here. But the question is, this is the right spot for the marina? Okay, yes or no? We don't have to design the marina. What we do need to put in the plan is we think this is the location and we think these are the ingredients. Remember, I used the analogy of the cake. We don't have to bake the cake. We just have to say it's going to be a chocolate cake or a vanilla cake. And these are the things that it needs to have in it. That's all we need to say. So then that will allow others to do more detailed studies about what the marina looks like. You've all seen the picture on the wall on the hall here. And I don't know if it looks like that or not, but we're not trying to do a design for the marina area. We just want to know what you think the ingredients are. So we have that. We've also talked about these nodes. We added that one there, second from the left. We've added one. And so these are non-residential development nodes along 361. So we've added those. Eddie's got slip roads in there, and those slip roads, we can talk about those later, but those are designed to help with access. So every single car doesn't have to necessarily get on 361 to go and do some internal circulations. And so we have that. So here's where we are. The question tonight is, what do we need to fix, adjust, amend, or delete on our goals, objectives, and strategies to get it ready to present to the public at the open house on September 20th. And so we're gonna go to the public and we're gonna say, we've been working with the CPAC committee. Special Blue Ribbon Committee. And this is what we think are the issues and the goals and where Port Aransas needs to go. Do you all agree with us that this is what we're gonna do? Because we're gonna draft a whole comprehensive plan around these guiding principles. All right, so that's what is important about this evening, because we're gonna need the time to get prepared. And we're gonna give you, just so you know, on home, we're good at homeworks. You know, we had a superintendent here and, we'd be remiss if we didn't have homework. So, we're gonna give you probably a couple of weeks to get any final changes in tonight, because we know how it goes. We can't really wordsmith every single sentence tonight and get the work done that we need to. But we're gonna need to have your input, so we're gonna give you probably 2 weeks to make any other changes and get anything else to us that you need to. So we're gonna do that. We're also gonna meet with you on that time as well. And we're already gonna be looking at some drafting of parts of the plan and recommendations. We're not gonna present them at the open house, but we're gonna use this opportunity to introduce those ideas to the CPAC committee. Then these dates haven't been set yet, but forthcoming, we're gonna be having a draft plan to look at. And then what we want to do after the first of the year is have the third and final open house. Now, these aren't required by law. These are open houses that we designed to allow the public to come and interact and engage. If you were at the first one, they're less formal and they have an opportunity for really a lot of exchange. That's when we want to present, here's the plan for Port Aransas, here's what it says, here's what we think needs to be done in the future. Here's our roadmap, our guide in the future. Okay, then after that, we have to have a required joint workshop with the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have to have public hearings required by law with the city council. And then hopefully sometime in early spring, we have an adopted plan. So we got time to do all this, but we don't have time to waste.
So what is a comprehensive plan?
Okay, a comprehensive plan is our roadmap of our vision of what we think needs to occur in the next 20 years in Port Aransas. It's our roadmap. It's a guide. I kind of liken it, here's the deal, I kind of liken it to a jigsaw puzzle. I told this in the first meeting, so y'all know this. But at Christmas time, you get a jigsaw puzzle, it's got 1,000 pieces. And so the first thing you do is you take that puzzle and you get a card table and you put all the pieces on the right side up. And the second thing you do, you put the top of the box and you set it up in front of you and you look at the picture on that box and you put each little piece in there. You look at the picture and you put the little pieces in the puzzle. Just think, if you didn't have a picture of that puzzle and you didn't know what it was supposed to say, you could eventually put the puzzle together, but it would be a lot harder. This plan gives us a picture of where we want to be in Port Aransas, and each of these pieces need to be done. I don't care whether it's the marina or whatever other pieces are. But this allows your P&Z, your city council, to make informed decisions about the physical layout and the development and redevelopment of the city. And it's the right way to do it because that also gives the development sector knowledge of what you expect. and how you want the community to look and feel. So it turns into your guidepost. It's your guide to how things need to be done. Like Yogi Berra, the baseball player said, if you don't know where you're going, you're not likely to get there. So we have to know where we're going. And this provides a workbook for staff to do. Once the council adopts it, your city staff knows what they have to go out and do. So that's what we want. We want a working document that allows decisions to be made in an orderly manner, and these decisions all cost money. And that's why it's important to do that. So that's what it does. Okay, so with all that said, I've given you some ideas, but the way we've handled the meeting before is we don't need to talk about every single thing, but I think we need to talk about the things that are most concerning to you all. And so you have to tell us, did we hit this right, or are we wrong, or what do you like about it? What do you dislike about it? And you've got to tell us. As good as we are, we can't read your minds. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the group, and first person to raise their hand gets to make the first comments.
So I have a question. You mentioned that there was no discussion on short-term rentals.
There's what, I'm sorry?
No discussion on camping short-term rentals. We're not gonna camp.
Well, that's what I remember. Somebody tell me different, but we kind of just say what I remember is that we decided last time that we didn't really want to regulate the number.
Okay, so just bear with me for a second.
Please, but that's what this is about, to get all this understood.
So there's about 2,500 units coming in Cinnamon Shores, there's about 515 coming in Elmira. About 194 particular point, or whatever they call it, another 100 at Blue Lagoon, another 100 at Marisol, Island Mooring, another couple of hundred. So it's probably about, I'm guessing, about 4,000 units out there. Every house, and I remember one of the presentations you said it puts about a 2.1 person strain on infrastructure for a housing unit that's not in short term. And if you go by, and I know we have a registration of how many short term rentals we have, what the occupancy factor is, but out by us, it's a nominal 10 people for a short term rental. And the way Port Aransas rents is, it spikes, right? It's Sandfest and Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July, and all that stuff. So
And it's not as much during the winter.
that's what you're over. So if that capacity peak, right? If you're talking 4,000 units, and it's 40,000 people additional on that beach that have to get to that beach. And have to, so my question and the fundamental issue here is, if there's no cap on it, and we know what's out there and what's going to be in the rental in our community, about 70%, about 70% of them are short-term rental. That would be about, you drop it down from 40,000 to 30,000, 28,000, something like that. But you have to have the assumptions there so you can make the decision and make the abounding calculation on beach load, water, sewage, drainage, emergency response time vehicles and stuff like that. So it's very different if you take 40,000 people with 4,000 population, or 35,000, whatever it is. Or if you're capping it, you decide, listen, we're just gonna cap it because the island is only 9 miles, it only takes so much money. But without that line in the sand for your base, I don't know how you go forward for the rest of the calculations, the rest of the analysis, because if we're talking about transportation and what that looks like, I think every car has 4 people in it, right? So now you're looking at 8,000, 7 more thousand cars coming into town. Where do they park and stuff? So without that fundamental line in the sand, whatever, and if the answer is none, then the answer is none. And then the comprehensive plan has to be built around supporting that type of person load on this 9 square mile island. If it's capped, or whatever that cap turns out to be, because the infrastructure can support it, then it's capped, and then that bounds the condition for the rest of the stuff. So, I mean, I like the idea, I like the direction we're going. I just think we're missing we're starting to build a house before we establish the foundation.
Well, you framed the issue very accurately. So how much, do we just let it go? But the idea is that if we're gonna let it go, we need to make the projections and plan for the infrastructure to do it. You're on an island and it's long and skinny. And so we've talked about limiting golf carts. Okay, but let me just tell you. Okay, so we're gonna have less golf carts and more cars?
Yeah.
All right, so we want less cars, and so we need more golf carts.
Well,
But you can't put them on the highway.
Well, I'm just saying, so we've already said we're not gonna limit. We're not gonna limit growth by saying people can't build. And right now, it appears you have the infrastructure, at least the water and sewer to do so.
Well, there's two,
Right now,
well, there's two different things.
right.
I'm not convinced of that. because
Okay,
there's two
well,
different
but,
things. You can build, right?
right.
And if
So.
we're 2.1 people, I think we have the infrastructure to support every building going up.
it's-
I don't know if we have the infrastructure to support every building going up with a 10 or 12 person load.
Well, that's true.
That's,
So-
so I'm not convinced that we can support the load unless we know again how many are gonna be rental, and how many are not.
I don't recall us saying that there wouldn't be a consideration of a limit, by the way. I don't recall that at the meetings.
Okay, well then.
And in fact, I recall seeing a number of comments to the contrary, so, you know, whether it's.
Okay, so we are gonna limit.
Building or are we limiting STRs, because there's a difference, that's what his point is, and that's where, you know, it's like, fine, build more houses if they're gonna support, you know, the second home community like Port Aransas used to be more of, as opposed to everybody just being an SDR. Because it's the SDR that's where this congestion issue is, it just gets worse. And think about the beach, that is something to truly consider. What are we gonna do? Create 3-row, 4-row deep parking from here on out?
Well, I mean, let's just look at the numbers. There's 4,000 units on the board right now. And your number says 2.1 people infrastructure. So if we build everything that's right on the board right now and leave everything that's vacant, but just build out some mature, build it all.
You're gonna have more people.
You're gonna have 8,000 by your number, you're gonna have 8,200 or whatever it is more people, right? And I think they're probably, maybe you can, I haven't seen a
But
calculation,
not,
but at 10 or 12 per unit.
not everyone's gonna have 10 or 12.
I bet you $1 if you pull that registry right now, all you gotta do is the number of people in the occupancy number and do the arithmetic and project, it's a pretty good thing.
Well, we're
And I
talking
could
about-
take in my neighborhood, every one of them, that everyone for his age has a 12 or a 14.
So there's two different things. One is all that purple out there that's gonna be developed, right? That's what all that is.
Yeah, now what we try to do,
On the
now,
highway.
that's a good point.
And the other is in town.
So,
Well, either one, they all flush to the same area, and they're all going to the 79 miles of beach, but then if we're putting
Well,
30,000
wait,
people on it.
let me say what about-
well, okay, so what we did is at the first meeting, or the second meeting, was that, there are entitlements, and you touched on it on your opening remark. But entitlements are simply zoning, planning, site planning, and we call it vested rights. In other words, they are entitled to build this. We can't go in there and take that away legally. Okay, it's called a taking. So what we try to do on here is map the entitlements. And as you can see, there's a lot, and you said it on your opening remark, there's a lot of entitlements that we're gonna get these. Now, the only thing that I can tell you is I'm not sure when you're gonna get them.
Well, according
And
to
so-
some builders, come in the next 5 years.
So we need to look at some of the transportation improvements. We need to balance that against your water and sewer. But, we can't take these entitlements away. And as you noted, there's thousands of units. So we're getting them. That's not so we're not gonna limit that.
Right, but you can limit short-term rentals, correct? You can't, because you register with the city, you need to get a permit. There's not an entitlement to get a permit. That's, if the city says our infrastructure and our comprehensive, we're gonna do short-term limits at, you know, pick your number, 3,000, 5,000.
Well, 100,000. I kind of misread that. I kind of thought,
Well, the entitlement, just to correct that, the entitlement is the
current allowable use. That's the entitlement. So most of that purple is entitled to short-term rental. So there is, the entitlement is through zoning.
So you're looking at a total right now, an additional 30,000 people on this island in the next 5 years.
Correct. Well, next 5 years, I don't know. If I think we can all wrestle about the win, but it's the numbers. I
So
think you're right.
our basic assumption right now
Right.
is 4,000 units entitled to maximum short-term rentals. Gotta be around 40,000 people coming.
So here's the deal.
And that's what the people have to plan for. So everybody that signs those full approvals. Right, Dave? That's what they're saying to me. When that comes to zoning and planning, they're saying, yep, I'm part of that 40,000 people family. Don't you worry about it, right? That's what they're telling me.
Here's the deal. You're not.
Don't you worry about it. I don't know if it's a don't you worry about it, but and that's the purpose of
Well,
long range
If I,
planning. But what they're not saying is, they're not signing on the dotted line and saying, I'm gonna be part of a massive taking. They're not doing that either, are they?
well, no, they are coming in, taking a gas.
No, I'm saying they're not signing up to be the taker. And taking that entitlement and starts a lawsuit. So what side are you on?
Well, I know it's not, I'm not, I'm just saying, that 'cause
Well-
I don't think you can get 40,000 people additionally on the beach.
I got a Google Earth image of Long Island in the summer. I get to be the chairman because nobody else.
I guess I'll disagree with you on that.
All right, all right, all right.
There's about 4,000 out there. I just gave it up to the.
I felt like your numbers on Cinnamon Shore were high.
All right, well,
But, okay, but the principle,
Oh.
but the principle, the numbers, we can just, talk about the numbers, but the principal argument is still the same. What I thought we heard last time, and so this is why you get to be the steering committee and I get to be told what to do, because you're the boss of me. But what I thought I heard was that we weren't going to say no to the short-term rentals last time. That's what I thought I heard, but maybe I could have misread things. And so you all that were here, you need to tell me, are we going to begin to limit these STRs or not? And then are we going, I thought the way we were moving was we were looking at more how to manage them rather than prohibit them.
So this is that party show, right? Now shut up after this cap. But whatever our foundation is in that purple, if it's 40,000 load, personal load, or whatever that is. When we put this out to our public, to the people who live in Port Aransas and vote in Port Aransas. We're gonna tell them the basis. We're gonna say, look at those purple areas and recognize that there are 4,000 units out there. Pre-approved and a nominal 10 people per unit. Your town on this comprehensive plan right now, as we speak, is looking at additional 40,000 people out there and personal load on everything else. That was the foundation of the plan. Now here's our plan. And as long as we're fully transparent with everybody in town, the town will decide what it wants to be, right? But I just think we gotta be fully transparent. I don't know if everybody is aware of what this foundation.
I think there's a lot of people that are aware. I don't know. who's-
I think there's a couple of different ways of excluding the areas out where all the purples are. And, yeah, I mean, let's look, that's a different deal entirely. But if you're in town, when I say in town, I'm talking about anything on this side of one, access road one. If you're in town and coming, it changes. You're not into that issue as like, I'm sure there's little pockets, but not really. And so in that sense, there technically could be a cap on STRs. You're not denying anybody the right to build, but there technically could be a cap. Wherever we are, we set a limit. And then when it's capped out, it's capped, when we've hit it, then it's a lottery to do. And I know I said this last time, it's a lottery then to get, when somebody dropped out, you can put your
Okay.
building in. And that's the way Colorado does it. It's the way a lot of places have had to go.
I got it.
But where are you gonna draw that line at? right?
Right.
So
I want to hear some-
are we gonna grandfather in the ones that are currently we have and then say, okay,
Yeah, of course, that's what I'm saying, you pick wherever we are now, you add a number to it, and then you do it.
we'll let them, keep on going, sorry.
All right, okay, so we have two, I think we've established a couple of comments here that there's too many. But this is like a democracy, so everybody gets to speak. So I want to hear from somebody that hadn't spoken already. What do you tell me? We've got to get consensus. Now, consensus, just to refresh everybody's memory, doesn't mean everybody agrees. But we got to have some consensus to move forward for September. And and either that or we're gonna get off schedule. So can I make? So all right, but so I want people to talk, but I want everybody to talk, not just, I think there's been good opening arguments, and I think we understand the issue. Now, I want you to tell me, do you agree with this or not? Okay, go ahead.
I personally think that whatever we do here could be overridden by the state legislature, and right? They might come in and they might say, you know what, you can STR anywhere. So that's one point. The second one, David, I think that what prior city councils did by changing the density of buildings, that could impact the number. None of these places in purple, have they been approved for the lot sizes, et cetera?
Most have,
They have.
yeah, and I mean, the other thing we also have to take into consideration is there's 8 miles to the left of that,
Oh, yeah.
edge of that drawing that we're not in
Like
control of.
North Padre, they don't.
Corpus.
But I guarantee I know what their plan is.
So then, and my final question, and I will be quiet, it's for our traffic expert. How many vehicles can go on a 2-lane 361 road at maximum?
Good luck with that.
I mean, that's just common knowledge.
Great. One currently carries anywhere from 17 to 20,000 cars a day. How do I know this?
17,000.
16. After school.
Is that,
By design.
is that max load though, or that's?
That's daily. So a 6-lane highway will carry about 42 to 50,000, depending on how it's managed. Okay, so the comment here about the demand, when we were setting this, looking at conceptually the loading and how do we reduce traffic and demand, the nodal concept came up. We have nodes of mixed use to say this, the southern sector of the city is different, right? It's the resort. We want to try to reduce traffic demands into the core of the community by creating nodes of activity. Restaurants, retail, all that stuff. So those folks go to resorts, they stay down there, they do their thing, they come down for other things here in the core of the community. Now, that's land use kind of thinking. Then within multimodal thinking, we have lines on the map for a couple of different reasons. Thinking about little circulator services, whether it's golf cart or whether it's open air transit kind of circulator service. We're thinking about finding ways of how within the core of the community, how to get folks from amenities, i.e. marina, to the beach, through corridors that are designed or conceptually designed for active transportation. These yellow lines are thinking about improvements for bikes and peds specifically, not cars. How do we rethink these yellow corridors for getting the golf carts into those corridors? Okay, so we have some of those kinds of improvements. Yes, there are some other traffic improvements. Avenue G at Alistair, 361 right turn lane, there's some things there, but the park and ride, reducing that load. On the north side of town, what do we do with this piece of city property? The idea was park and ride lot with potential ferry access across to Roberts Park. Did I get that right? There's an old slip right there.
And you get a golf cart when you get there.
Yeah, or there's part of that golf cart circulator. So just kind of things like that, helping to reduce the load and the demand. Those kinds of things.
But there's a lot of cars coming.
Yeah.
And that's what we're attempting to figure out. is how
That
do we-
plan might be a problem with the port
Yeah, is
plan,
that
with the
Harbor
super
Island?
port in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So, but
yeah, so we saw that tonight. Thank you, Kathy, for that. I gotta believe that city leadership is in tune with what's going on with this port plan. in the EIS that's out there and the comment period that closes August 9th. What is this, a turnaround?
Yeah, they wanna put a VLCC turnaround.
A turnaround. So,
An oil term.
Right
yeah,
next.
one
right
there,
next to
plus
the
one over
ferry.
here, so.
Shut
that
it
might be
down.
worth
They want
comment.
to put two, to be
Leadership.
honest.
On opposition or concern or about it, but yeah, and then the dredging comment, all great stuff. So but those are other agencies, and so I guess from a planning perspective, from a comprehensive plan, the direction might be coordinate with other agencies to address current operations or how that gets done, maybe with some guide, some points of how that can get done, but it's the high level, we gotta take care of this.
And that's the key. This plan is your plan. It's not the state's plan. It's not the Corps' plan. It's your plan. The only way that you're gonna have effective change with these other governmental agencies is through a document like this. Because I can guarantee you, let's just take TxDOT. They're not gonna come in and resolve the issues in this room. They will not do it. They'll listen. They're putting it on the local, this is happening all over the state. They're putting it on the local entities to resolve policy and direction. So once we have that, whatever's in that plan, that's what they'll listen to. And you're right. We got a legislator, now, I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, but our legislator has adopted the philosophy of strong property rights in Texas. Always been like that. Those of us who've been here forever know this. But there likely is not to prevent us from limiting short-term rentals. That's coming. I'll bet you dollars to donuts. So we may do whatever we want to do to limit them, but I'll bet you the state legislature tells us no.
It was ruled unconstitutional.
Yes. I'm just, now that's my opinion from watching this. They've done it to us on annexation. They've done it to us being cities. They've done it to us on taxation. They said cities can only raise taxes 3.5%. But they haven't said we can limit. So what's happened is you and all other cities in the state have been limited to 3.5% tax increase every year. But you know what? Have you listened to the news? Inflation's going, it's exponential. And so all the costs that these cities have on infrastructure, personnel, fire, police, public facilities, running your water plant, running your sewer plant, all these costs have increased. But the state says, no, it doesn't happen. We're still going to live. And so cities are struggling to be able to pay for these things all across Texas. And so then on top of that, they've said on the platform of property rights, no more annexation, which you don't really have to worry about here. Because you've already annexed all your lands. But they said, okay, cities can't grow, so no more growth. And then now can't raise taxes. So really the state has kind of a no growth policy. So what we've learned from the pre-bills that are floating around out there is that they are now looking at, they've said that you can't regulate your state, you know, it's not a motel, it's not a bed and breakfast, it's really, you can't limit short-term rentals. That's basically what's gonna happen, I think. So we may be running afoul of that anyway, but the only thing I can say is that we need to put in there what we think is best for Port Aransas, and then the state's gonna do what the state's gonna do. But there also could be some, we should call it grandfathering, I don't know if that's the right word anymore. But you know, we can have some things in place that they may not be able, you know, not want to change. They may let the cities do what they do if they're already doing it. So we don't need to waste time. We need to set what we need to do. That's a good point. We can't control that. We can't control what Washington's doing. We can't control what Austin's doing. Let's just work on what we want for the Aransas to be. That's the best we can do. Oh. So
I had probably one important comment. So the question was, carrying the load, carrying a 6-lane road is 4250. You don't have a 6-lane road. It's on the plans, a 6. A 4-lane is about 24,000. So you're approaching level of service DE in operations in the segment that's
60 mile an hour.
yeah, and it's all a function of also the access. But another key thing that we put on this map since our last meeting was the idea of slip roads. Had a really bad accident in June 15th or 16th, fatality accident. What if there was a way to create an opportunity to be able to get to and from these areas on either side with slip roads?
So they
Roadways
call them
that-
frontage roads.
kind of like Island Moorings Parkway. We got a little, like a commercial collector that's running through. You extend that so you're able to get accessibility to some of these properties off of 361. So then
I
it
hope
helps.
we don't have to tell you about the third unique challenges.
Oh, yeah, no question.
With the eyes.
Right. And so some of these areas we know now won't work. I was trying to be bold here, but we know some areas that may not work. But the slip roads enables the ability to get without having to get on 361. Because the idea is that we have traffic control and we have corridor management. We're going to be limiting certain movements. So the idea is how do we maximize the benefit or the throughput of 361. So that's what the concept of this slip road is about.
Oh, you don't think we have 4-lane highway, do you?
You have your two.
Arts is one.
Your two, and then it gets.
We have 2-lane mostly.
Yeah.
And a passing.
A 5-lane section or a 3-lane section.
Well, it's 5-lane
Yeah.
out to the golf cart bridge,
Right, fine.
2 and 2 at the center turn, that's 5. Then it transitions into a 3-lane passing lane alternative.
Yeah.
Profile.
So what does that mean for corridor management? Management can be a bad word. It's too strong for developers. Corridor coordination. But maybe and it depends on what you all want. Do you want to maximize throughput with potentially raised medians in the corridor? Or do you?
Instead of suicide lanes?
Instead of a continuous 2-way left turn?
You have success with this novel concept anywhere else?
Well, so
Because
folks
I'm sorry, I'm sitting here listening, and that's the only thing to me that seems like.
there's nothing out there now, but we can plan for those lane pieces, right? And it doesn't have to be 4 corners. It can be one side, 1 quarter, but we're trying to create things to reduce the impact of transportation into the core city with other amenities.
And nodal development is not new, it's been around in planning for a long time. But the idea here is that we know that stripping this out with all non-residential and whatever it wants to be is not a good planning concept. So what we're saying is we've already used this one here, we may need to adjust it. I think it needs to be adjusted a little bit right there. But this idea here, if we could cluster the non-residential, what that does is it's going to give all this residential development a place to go, except for always coming back down to here. If we could get a little bit of that just back here, they're going to get to their access points on the beach. But if we had really cool things happening at these nodes, then maybe not every single one of these thousands of units would come back in the town. Because it's going to be congested at best. And so let's see if we can't broaden this out and get some of these slip roads in where if you want to go from here to there, maybe you don't have to get on 361. Maybe you can take this slip road. It's been done in a lot of different places. And so we're thinking things like that. I'm sorry that we're a long, skinny city. I mean, it's just the way we are. And so we're only going to be able to do so much. But for the most part, a lot on the north side is wetlands. You've got some entitlements there, but we're going to have to begin to have some management recommendations to be able to at least get a hold of this thing and at least try to make this some kind of portal. But we got to get this thing wide. And there's enough traffic, the demand's going to be there to widen. And so we've got to at least get it 4, maybe, I don't know, 6 lanes. And we can't build it big enough. But yes, sir.
Where you want to put the slip roads, the land that you want to put that on, who owns that right now? Is that state or are you going to
So
go to
it's
private property?
probably
Or
gonna be a
eminent
combination
domain?
of both.
You're
We
gonna
have to
be,
work through the development process. Hopefully, they are willing to see the benefit of this versus jumping out onto the private developers.
Think they could go, golf carts on those roads that they'll.
Well, no, I mean, a 2-lane collector type facility, island mooring type, that kind of roadway that does that kind of connection. But more importantly, if there's the desire by the community to say, we gotta do something with this corridor, to maximize what we want to do with our land use, we will inform TechStot. We have an idea of what we want to do with 361 here, and we need to get to the table.
We better get it on the plan or anything will go. Textile won't listen.
What about 361 to Aransas? Did y'all do a count on that roadway
Which part?
to Aransas Path?
Ferry.
Ferrets?
No, I did not.
And we already know what the ferry counts are.
Okay.
The 2 counts, we had 15 2 counts scattered around the city. That was for the impact side of the study, but we could use that data for this. Those about 17,000. Let's see, I think cutoff was right at 10,000. West of Allegheny, right at 10,000. Then it's 12. Here we go. So, 12,600, west of Avenue G, 12,700 more or less. Alistair, west of Avenue G, 17,000.
But we need to build a road that's 60,000. And there's a financing mechanism to do that.
And you have that in the impact fees. Or you say, golly, we really want to ask TechStot to put 6 lanes in there. And you say we can cap it at 4, and the pain happens where so much traffic congestion that folks will say, I don't want to do the same. Probably not. Right? Well, but that's not to suggest we're going to take 6 lanes all the way through town. Oh, no, that stops when we get into, the town proper.
We just can't do it.
I think it's a lot more likely that we need to get tech stop to expand versus the one trying to put slip roads into private property for the developers. We've already see how that's going. We're trying to do beach access access to ensure.
Yeah, and so, right, the idea, hopefully, some developers may place and may not,
We can put it on a thoroughfare plan and we can require it, and then we can make them build it. But it has to be according to proportional. Their share, we can get them to build their share. All right, others that haven't spoken, I want to hear from somebody that hasn't.
I think your notes are good, the plan there, and we got a plan for growth, and that's what we're doing here tonight. Because if we don't do it, they'll look around us hard and make the point, they're still gonna come to our beaches. Why doesn't the city want to benefit from that? So they're still gonna come rolling through to Portland side. I don't know what else to say. Just provide a plan for it.
Mary, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I thought a lot about the goals that have been set out and looking at the map. It doesn't exactly reflect what I thought, maybe we agreed to on in some areas, but nevertheless, I was trying to come to grips with the Old Town concept, which I very much believe in supporting the Old Town concept. But I think the way that we tried to apply it here doesn't make a lot of sense, because Old Town, as it's drawn up right now, encompasses some of the oldest neighborhoods in Port A, as well as some of the newest commercial development. And so you're really talking about 2 things. And so what I was kind of thinking about was to have something which is the town center, which is the business district in my mind. I mean, you might want to call it the town center instead of business district, but which we would say promote island character in the business district. And it would be Old Town as well as all of the major corridors into Port Aransas, which would include 361 from Beach Access Road 1A up to Avenue G. That's a major corridor, entry corridor. And then all of that part of Old Town and really actually everything, from all the way over to Beach Access Road 1A. And then on the major corridors, like we discussed before, have entry portals, landscaping, try to put in some turn lanes to relieve congestion, give it some character, have some density, building height requirements, consider the possibility of architectural standards to prevent metal buildings or, whatever, try to make it more of an island character. And develop the town square that we already talked about in that same location at Oaks and Allister that we already own. With a pavilion maybe, and make that sort of a cultural center. And I think that maybe there's cultural grant funds, cultural districts that can be created with grants. Let that be a cultural district, put up some pedestals with, history of Port A and try to make it into a walking tour, maybe accessible by trolleys. People can come in, catch a trolley, come in there and have a little map where you can go here to this museum and here to this, and this and this and this. I don't know. That's of course a coordination between the Old Town Committee and the Chamber and the city. And then try to incorporate that into the multimodal transportation thing where not everybody has to drive into that area. Provide boardwalk or sidewalk access to the entire harbor area. No matter what else happens to it, whether it's privately developed or we give up the marina or whatever, that just has the public access area. And then, okay, so that is in
So wait a
my
minute, I'm
mind.
just trying to get a hold of your concept here. So you're thinking that maybe the town square concept's too small and it needs to be broadened out.
Well, because
But okay, but then maybe the old town area, that needs to be morphed into, are we just talking about one district? Or you still think it should be two?
I'm really talking about a business district, because part of Old Town is neighborhoods, which are gonna be
Yeah.
treated differently than your business district. I'm talking about creating a business district zone that goes all the way out to Beach Access Road 1A, because there's a lot of business,
But it's along the corridor.
the corridors,
Corridor.
yeah. All the corridors coming into town where all the existing business is right now.
I would say
CZ2
district.
Yeah, but Mary, I was gonna say, we have the C1 and C2 overlay zones in a lot of old towns actually, and CZ, is it CZ2? Yeah, I mean,
So you can call it business.
Well, I'm calling it the town center, but whatever you want to call it, because we're talking 20 years in the future. The town center is not going to be some little small area. I mean, the town center to me really is what we're looking to try to preserve for residents, long-term residents is, the area from the ship channel over to Beach Access Road 1A. And so, but we have a business district in there. Old Town is part of Old Town is in that. And so that's that. But then another district that I think we need to think about is a residential preservation district. I don't know, I made that up, but is there such a thing? I mean, a district, and it would really include that same area pretty much where we're trying to preserve a good way of life for permanent residents, long-term residents who live in that whole area. That's where they all live. They don't all live in Old Town. They live in Old Town all the way over to 1A in those neighborhoods on Station and 11. And that's where I think you really want to drill down on STRs and all those other problems that are at the front of everybody's mind. STRs and golf carts are two things I hear about all the time. to make it more livable on the long-term basis for permanent residents. Recognizing that then the purple zone over there is more of the resort zone. Maybe not as highly regulated, but we already have all these STRs. I think it's a horrible mistake that's made in the past that we have to live with to some extent because they're there. And I think that the best way to deal with it is through regulation. And we can regulate the purple ones too. I mean, tell them they have to have on-site management, they have to do this, do that. How much parking, how much green space. But in the residential preservation zone, I think that's where you really want to start looking at the impact of STRs on neighborhoods, long-term neighborhoods.
I'm just trying to understand. So you're thinking, and I appreciate your attempt at calling it something. We can talk about that later, but this residential preservation zone would be this area here, this area here. We're just trying, I'm trying to
I
get
know.
around, I'm trying to get
Okay.
around it.
So here's what we've been calling Old Town. And
This
they
area
added
here.
to a little bit. But really, I think when you're talking about where people live in long-term residence, you're talking about that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you,
This is Beach Access Road 1A.
right.
Okay, and so there are all kinds of old neighborhoods in here and long-term residential. People trying to live here in amongst the STRs and everything. And I think this is where this whole area, including Old Town, where people live, that's where we really need to focus on
Short-term.
serious regulation.
Well, at least I
of
understand.
STRs.
I understand more now. So really, I don't say abandoning, but we're not really calling Old Town. You've rebranded it as a residential conservation area. It doesn't necessarily mean everything there's historic.
Right,
You're just trying to preserve the neighborhood look and feel here, and that's why you call it a residential
preservation.
preservation area. Or
Yeah.
But, and then in that, but though, okay, so we got the area.
Inside of that is a business district,
Right, and that would be the corridors, and I think we already
which
talked,
is, yeah,
I think we already talked about the
Boundaries
corridors.
there.
Yeah, we've already agreed that we would have these corridors. But here's where I want to get to drill down a little bit. So you're thinking though, in this residential
preservation.
preservation area, that we would limit STRs.
Well, I thought a
I
lot
mean, that's the
about
big,
that.
I mean, that's the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought a lot about limiting the number or limiting a percentage of that area, only a percentage would be STR. There's already too many STRs in that area, so how are you gonna get it down really to where you want it to be? And so I'm not against that, although you could be talking about people saying it's a taking. Why do they get to do it over there? We're zoned for it. Why aren't we gonna get to do it? I don't know. But what I really think we need is to have registration fees on STRs, user fees, whatever we can to be able to support additional personnel to monitor and regulate the STRs in that area. Because, I've seen what.
I think you're still gonna be able to do all that. But those things, I think you will be able to do. You'll be able to require extra parking. I'm just saying where the train's going is I'm not sure we can say no more.
Well,
That's
and
what I'm worried about.
I thought about that.
I'm
I'm a
just worried
lawyer.
about
I
it.
thought about that too,
Yeah.
But, and so I'm not really proposing that. I'm not saying I'd be against it if we could work it out, but because there might be people who own property in that area who say, wait, I want to develop mine as an SDR, and why can't I if those people can?
And if you put a heat map in the darkest color would be the most STRs in the future, I think the darkest color would be right here. And this would be a lighter color because
Lighter than now or?
well, not 20 years now, but I think we're getting a point of saturation here. The land left to build SDR here, it is really limited to lots. I
And
mean-
that's the
I mean-
same thing going all the way to Beach Expo.
And so up here though, we're gonna have high rises. And they're all gonna be, I mean, like we said, they're gonna be hundreds and thousands of SDRs here. So this is where they're all 20.
And that's why I'm actually proposing this residential preservation district, which is kind of the existing Port Aransas County. All the way to Beach Expo, Texas Road 1A.
So everybody can see, everybody, I mean, is everybody hearing this? In other words, we haven't got consensus on this, by the way, but the first thing to do with consensus is everybody understand the concept. And so does everybody kind of understand what Mary's talking about, at least in concept? Yes.
So that we can create some like that place that already exists where most of the people in Port Aransas live who are citizens of Port Aransas, not visitors. We can create some protection for them of their neighborhoods, of their quality of life by regulating SDRs in that area specifically and requiring high registration, annual registration of things. If you want to do this STR, you're gonna have to pay for the impact of it. And that's
Those
gonna
things
be
I think we
hiring
will do.
additional people.
But, okay, so now, are there any thoughts that they agree with Mary's concept or disagree with Mary's concept? What do you all think?
I'm disagreeing with your map and the reasons I am on the Old Town Committee, and so I don't remember us adding that area up there. This is the map, I've got two with me, one was done in 13, another one was done in 17, they were both voted on and approved about the Old Town boundary.
I remember you had.
And this one is, that map even up there is not correct because it doesn't come all the way down for Karen, it doesn't get all the way to UTMSI. In other words, it's supposed to come all the way down, we can use a street boundary because it really didn't.
Are you talking about this area here?
Yes, and so, other than that, the only thing that was added, see, the original was here, but what was added by council in 13 and again 17 was this little segment to G. Now, none of that other area, that upper part was on there. Now, this is what we.
Yeah, we discussed it the last meeting.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, hey, this is what we approved. that was supposed to be- yeah, so-
And also,
And-
this, my additional,
that was in,
No, we added another. That was the last.
no, I don't remember that either.
Old Town includes
But-
both commercial and residential areas.
Yeah, well,
So all of Old Town can't be treated the same. I mean, there's commercial parts of it and there's residential.
I think, I've always had a discussion about that.
the commercial part is CZ2 zone, right, Dave? That's
Yeah.
right.
There's a lot.
So
But it's
that's
on
the
line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
there is an overlay of that. What I was gonna finish saying was part of our discussions and part of a lot of our research. Especially even after that meeting has shown that if we just could get the boundary. Approved, even though it's been approved twice as far as a resolution, we want to get it approved as a ordinance. And then we are looking at the possibility, and it turns out there's a good possibility that we create preservation districts within the boundary, not the whole boundary. Let me make that clear. Not everything in there, but we could certain areas that have especially older structures that they do qualify under Texas Historical Commission, and we could create preservation districts.
Okay, tell me what we could do in that district that we couldn't do in Mary's concept. What would be, I want to know why, huh?
You're taking part of it out.
Well, I'm just wondering, okay, we're gonna have this preservation area, what is it that we're gonna do? That other than, I made a condescending comment about, other than we're gonna have different color street signs. What is it that we're gonna do there that's gonna create something better or different than what Mary's concept is? I'm asking, I'm not telling, I'm just, okay, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to stand up in front of the city council and somebody's gonna say, well, what is what is it gonna be? What's it gonna do? What's the guideline? So we gotta, and I'm afraid that messenger is gonna be us or me. And so I've got to be real clear on what we're saying.
I'm confused as to what we're trying to do with it. We need to be scared because, you know, I get, I want to create the old town charm. I want to preserve history and heritage. I want to have places for people to live, but I don't understand the blob of Old Town, you know.
I mean, how many historic structures?
More than you realize.
Well, I just look at it.
don't.
Actually,
Well, here, let me jump in real quick. We have a study
Yes.
done in 2006 from the Texas Historical Commission. They came down and analyzed everything in town. So if you want to know, you can go look at that study. That is the official document that we have governing that topic.
But we've contacted them, and even in the document, it says that there are, there are other structures, anybody can nominate structures. They only listed so many, and the fact of the matter is they left out like one whole neighborhood. I can tell you, there are 12 historical structures in that neighborhood, and it's just on this one little block area, and there's other little sections and pockets.
Like I said,
All the
that's an
towns like that.
official document of the city. And until we get another document professionally done by the historical commission, we don't have anything.
Well, I think it misses the point, actually. I have no problem with the Old Town concept drawn however it is or will be. And if we can get some historical districts going on in there, great. And if we can treat it differently, that's fine, because it's this historical district. What I'm saying is, when we're talking about protecting neighborhoods, that's a different issue. I'm not saying not do Old Town. I'm not saying anything. I'm saying, yes, do Old Town. Do any,
They're not
maybe-
mutually exclusive.
No, I'm just saying that when we're talking about preserving neighborhoods and preserving the quality of life, that island
Isn't that what-
character.
What she's talking about?
Yeah, but
No,
she's talking about the
she's
boundaries of
going
Old
down a
Town,
different.
and that doesn't have anything to do
Well,
with it.
okay, all right, I'm trying to figure out which road we are going down.
I think it's two separate issues, actually. She's discussing something that's really separate from.
Yes, exactly. I'm
Thank
not
you.
talking about not doing Old Town.
Okay, so what we're gonna have is a residential preservation area. And its job is just to protect the neighborhoods. And I'm gonna guess it's like
That's it.
scale. Maybe we limit all structures to 2 stories. Or maybe we limit STR in this area. But whatever it is, that's what that district or that area would do. And then the preservation one would do what? The preservation one would do what? Yes, sir.
If we have an old town preservation with the idea of preserving the structures in Old Town, would it be that you're never allowed to tear it down and build a new, or you must then maintain it to current standards? What do we do once we have it in other people's preservation zones?
That has been well litigated and set all over the state. Okay. But you can have, first of all, you have to have some authoritative study. And that's what David was talking about. But somebody needs to say this is a historical work. It can be an area or it can be individual structure. But once you have that, there's 2 ways you can have an historic district, or you can do it by individual lots. But there's a template that the historic, the Texas Conservation Historical, the commission has, that probably 80% of the cities in Texas use to do that. But what it basically says is you can't tear it down. You get a 240-day wait period that you can stop them. But then if you don't, then you somebody can't come up with an alternative, then they're gonna be available, you can tear it down. You know, so, and that's all being litigated, you can get into that, but it's all on the Texas Historical
So you
Commission.
can go into an old town preservation zone with a home that was built in the thirties. And if somebody wants to buy it and they want to replace it, they're allowed to, following the protocol.
Right, right. That's the way most of the districts in Texas are set up.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you up north, you know, maybe in Williamsburg, Virginia, and some of these other places,
Right.
a little different, a little different. They are a little stronger. Of course, they're a little older and a lot of other things, but in
And a new
Texas,
building has no preservation. It
yeah,
comes out of.
here, it goes back, we can do a little.
All right.
We set them up, you know, we've set them up, you know, we set them up. We set one up around Fort Stockton, the old Fort area there. I mean, we've done them in different cities. But that's generally what we would have to do is say, okay, this is an area that's been determined to be an historic area for these reasons. And and I'm not trying to drum up extra work here. I don't do those studies. But there are people out there that do, and they come in and they evaluate it and they make a determination if this is a district, or maybe it's just individual structures. And we can do it either way. So, some cities just do it with, you know, they just have an overlay that goes on each structure. And you can do that. And you don't have to have a whole district. So those are the two ways to do it. And we could do one of those two ways here.
To me, it's the structure, because you have so many places that we're gonna create additional burdens on if they would like to do something different. And so many of the properties I drive up and down the streets, I've seen most of them in town. They don't, you know, it'd be a great thing if they got replaced. So,
Well,
um,
I see a lot. I mean, it's like, I've driven around and I haven't seen that many, and I'm not saying this in a disparaging way. I haven't seen that many quote historic structures.
I don't think a lot of people realize it, and a lot of stuff's been restored. And I think that's where, you know, then you're looking, you know, I mean, a lot of things can be restored. And nobody's saying, even if it's in a preservation district, we're not saying that we're even trying to. We're still doing the homework on it, but I think we are getting the Texas Historical Commission down here, David. And because I have that report, and because there's a lot that can be added. The goal would be to promote the, I mean, to get, you know, somebody buys a house that's 102 years old, you know, the goal is to promote that they try to keep that house. Do you know
That
how
is
many old
worth it.
post office?
That's worth it. But how many of those do you have left? How many 102-year-old homes do you have left? I mean, I'm learning here. I'm just learning.
Well, it's not over 50%, so if it's not over 50%, it can't be called a historical district. No, that's why we're going to the preservation district, because we would like to get, you know, people the incentives, that they can get tax incentives and stuff like that, if they want to keep the house and restore it, or if they want to tear it down, build it, restore it.
Well, you can identify an area. Here's one way you can do it. You can identify an area, and let's just, for sake of argument this evening, because we're running out of time. But this is your historic preservation area. You could identify that area, and then within there, you could do the designation on an individual lot by lot basis. You can set it up that way. That if you're here, you're eligible, you can come in and apply to the historical commission. There'd be a landmark commission here. Okay, you have to have one, but you get approved by them, you get approved, you can run it through P and Z, but you can have to be approved by council because it's zoning. Once you get that done, then they can do the tax abatements and the other incentives. You can do that on a house, a lot by lot basis. You can do that right now. You can do that.
And you should expand it, like Mary said, because going down, there are a lot of older homes outside of, yeah,
This area
coming all the
here?
way down.
Not that.
I mean, 9th Street's got quite a bit, just going down there that's still left.
Old house?
All right, so what am I gonna, what are we gonna tell the public at the open house about this?
Can I just
Well, let me
clarify
ask you,
what I
Mary,
was-
there's a section here called H3, support existing neighborhoods. So why is that different than what you
Well,
say?
it's not different, but I think that when I read all this, where we were focusing all our efforts on preserving the quality of life. I mean, there is that one little note there, yeah. I was kind of taking everything and pulling it into, well, how are we gonna do that? And proposing that it be by making that and anything I'm proposing, it doesn't really have anything to do with Old Town. Old Town exists completely separate from it, which I support as a historical, cultural district, whatever preservation, whatever can be done to that. But parts of Old Town are neighborhoods that we want to protect from STRs and all that. And I'm just saying, we need to recognize where people live right now and try to preserve those neighborhoods. We're losing citizens.
So why don't we
who live
make
here
that
for years.
section support existing neighborhoods and increase what we find to say with that section?
Right.
Pardon?
Maybe we need to add some more strength there. I don't know.
Supporting existing neighborhoods.
So,
Well, in that whole area, I think we need to identify that area because
okay,
to be
so,
accessed.
so this is the motion. I'm just trying to move this along. because
Okay.
I'm running out of daylight here. Now I'm here. I'll stay till midnight, by the way. I'm here. You'll be voting yourself. You know, and I'll admit, I mean, we're guilty. We're staying in STR tonight. And so we're guilty as charged.
And you parked on the sidewalk?
So, and I'll tell you what, I gotta tell you, it's nice, but it doesn't have 10 people in it. Okay, it's nice. All right, so what we would do, the proposal would be for the committee to consider is, and we don't have to draw it, we'll draw it, but we need to get the concept agreed to by you all. So what we would do is we would add to the map an area, and we will call it the residential conservation
Or whatever.
district, Mary's presidential district. But anyway, we'll figure out the name, that may be the.
I do live in it.
Okay, all right, so, but that is gonna be something like this, okay? And then we call that, and in that, what we were gonna do is say that there needs to be these kinds of things. And,
But where do you stop? I mean, there's houses in Island Morning that are almost 60 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where I'm moving down the road. I mean, it's just.
But Island Mornings is restricted by its own right, you know. In these other neighborhoods, this is where you're talking about the mixed use.
So is it about conservation or restriction? I feel like
It
it's
has
going
caused
toward
something
restriction.
called- where you have STRs right next to long-term residential houses, all through those neighborhoods. And those are where most of the complaints come from.
I think you're coming back full circle to, you want to restrict STR. And we still have.
I hate to say it, but he's exactly right. We're avoiding the issue here. You're saying that this district, we can limit STRs. And we haven't gotten over that yet. Is that something that we want to do?
I think that's what this past time hasn't been about.
I mean,
But
Actually, what I was proposing was things like a higher registration fee for STRs to pay for actual personnel dedicated to code enforcement in that area, to requiring, for instance, any complex that has, say, more than 4 units or 6 or 10, however you want to set it, has to have on-site management. The city should not have to go in and manage like Ocean Village, more than 20 houses crammed together, called a condominium with no on-site management. It's a party town and nobody's in control. And so those are the kinds of things that we can control. You have to have on-site management. You're going to have that many houses. So the city doesn't have to come over and manage it. I mean, any normal condominium, if somebody's raising a hell, you call the manager and they put an end to it.
so the only problem with that, with Ocean Village, for example, that is a whole slew of different management companies. So who
Well,
can be turned off?
It's a condominium regime.
Hey, I live right across from your neighbors, so I know how it is, but.
And so I believe the city's never done that, but since they did, I mean, I think that you can require some.
we can. I think we can. So, but this area here, we're not gonna have any restrictions at all. We're just gonna let this go, right? Same, right, okay.
Well, there's that, it's on the line.
Okay, but so, all right, so, but here's what we're saying for Mary's history. I promise you, we're not looking to have a lynch mob with you up here. But in Mary's district, what we would say is that's gonna be the residential conservation area or preservation area. And it's gonna have some standards or some guidelines or some regulations for SDR, but it's not gonna prohibit them.
I think in order to do that, and I don't disagree with what Mary's saying necessarily. But I think in order for you to say what the boundaries are, I think it would be incredibly important to really know where the 900,000 homesteaded residential units are.
And there's a lot of them in there.
Yeah, and I don't disagree, but to someone else's point, there are a lot of them in Isle Orange, Channel Vista's 100 rooftops, right? So 10% of them are just in one neighborhood that is regulated long-term rental. But I think it would be important to conceptually know that, especially for you guys, you know, if you're charged with going and making the decisions or helping us make a decision where we need to target this preservation, then there's got to be some mechanism that we can hotspot that. Because, you know, I mean, maybe there's, you know, 10 next to 150 short-term rentals. So, you know, what do you do? But I will say real quick, because I agree, you're never going to make it through this list if you don't go on. But I do agree with Mary in your somehow district branding, highlighting, controlling, enhancing the CT zone. I think that's a great idea, and I think that's something that we need to do moving forward for the next 20 years. We have the CT2 overlay. We need to figure out how to continue to apply it. Yeah, what do we want? Do we want, you know?
All right, so we're gonna have this, we're gonna put this on the map. Is there anybody that doesn't want to do that?
Wait, I thought you were gonna find out where people live. Next week.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's part of the work. We're trying to figure out what to do. Yeah, the mayor's right. We need to figure out where they are and how where they're located and all that. And we have a lot of that information, but we need to do that. That's right. But I think somehow we're going to have to advance the concept first to see if it's an idea that we want to do. So I would say, let us put that on the map and then get back out to you some information to go with it, the data that would help maybe you all determine a little bit more what you want to do with it. But let us put that on the map and more work to be done, more work to figure out exactly where, quote, the hot spots are, the amount, and where the purpose.
I think we should wait from putting on the map and let's see where the hotspots are. Then maybe we can, instead of making one big district and smaller district, we need
Okay.
that.
So we need a hotspot map and we can get that.
Right, I
Well,
agree.
although also, these STRs are fairly recent.
And
And
you're including 11, that's all that's.
yeah,
All
and
that happens for years.
Yeah,
Yeah, the beach side.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
well,
next.
not necessarily so.
Move on.
I mean,
I'm gonna-
there are
Right.
many homes,
That's true.
permanent residents
That's
that on the beach
I'm
side.
trying to do one thing. All right, here's what we're gonna do. No more discussion on SDR. We're gonna put this on the map. We're gonna look at hot spots and we may not have it right, but evidently we didn't get it right. So we're gonna move on. Now, the other issue here is do we want to have an historic preservation area on the map or not?
Yes.
And the purpose of that would be where you could either individually or as a grouping of lots could have designated historic structure. And I'm gonna say, you already got a good start on it. Why not have the area and say, and we may not have gotten this area exactly right.
I'm gonna give you the.
Okay, if you'll give us the right area, we'll put it on it. And in that area, what we would say in our guiding principles is this would be an area where properties would be eligible to come in and ask for historic designation on a lot by lot basis. So the owner would do it. The owner would make the request
From who?
to the city. And then that would be an historic, and then you would go to the
City
property.
can't grant a historic, it would just be preservation, because that has to come from
All right, well, we said,
historical
we
commission,
said
but
that.
anybody can make a nomination the historical commission, I've actually already gotten permission from several people to comment there.
That would allow the owners to come and do it on their basis.
Yes,
Okay, so we'll put that on the map, and then we're gonna write that up to where that's how that would work. And I haven't quite figured out the wording, but Eric has already got it figured out. I'm sorry, typing. All right, so we're gonna do that. So we're done with that.
And everybody likes the designated, town square area.
yes.
That's a good point. Now, as far as the town square area go, that's already, it's different, but is the town square area, did we get that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay, town square is right. Okay, got that. Hallelujah. Okay, right, no more, on that.
Okay.
Okay, no more on that. Okay, now, tell me, did we get the marina right?
Yeah.
Done. Done. Okay,
And
got,
I'm gonna have to tell everybody, the Fort Corpus Christi and their proposal also wants to do a turning basin there, well, right there.
Across.
As I cross the Corpus, actually, right there at Corpus Point, and if
Right
On the
they-
other side.
right here.
yeah, they want to too, but I'm only letting you know that the other one would be right there. Yes, it would be a problem for a lot of reasons. It would also take out the pier, but they didn't put that in their map.
Also, when they looked at the marina before, the hydrology study showed that it sucked all the water out of it every time it.
I think this is for another discussion.
Yeah,
Doesn't
not
affect
discussion.
Right.
as it is right now.
But you're right, there's a displacement issue there, but it's an engineering solution.
Right.
Though, there are ways
There are ways.
that would be done to mitigate that displacement of that water when those big tankers come through. So, but-
Figure that out, and have to figure jetties out.
Absolutely, absolutely. But step one,
Yeah.
is it a worthy goal for Port Aransas to have a marina? And what we're gonna say is there needs to be some, place to have a restaurant and have boats and buy fish and gasoline, maybe a place to live. And it loosely tracks that picture in the hall. Like, we don't have to design all that, but is a place like that worthy to have in Port Aransas at this location? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But we have, all right, everybody in the room says yes, except for a maybe and a no.
What are you gonna do with the old one?
It's already, I gotta tell you, it's full, it's 100% full.
But are you talking about keeping two marinas in?
Yes.
We don't own one of them.
Right.
Yeah, we
would, but you gotta go with me on this. This is not, we didn't get total unanimous, but we got consensus. Sorry, ladies, we gotta move on. Okay, so that's what's gonna go in for right now. Now, we may change it later on, but that's what we're gonna go to. Now, what else is hanging around that we didn't get right from the last time? Everybody likes the idea about the multimodal. We're gonna have some transportation recommendations. Just say yes to that.
Yeah.
If we're- And the no's are a good idea. Please say yes to that. Yeah, okay, yes to that. All right, and then, okay, you know, we gotta have the easy one first. Okay, I'm sorry, we'll say the environment. Is there any, before we talk about the environment, is there anything, if we were getting this ready to show to the public on September 20th, is there anything else that we haven't already talked about that we need to change, add, or delete from this? Yes, sir.
I do not like this comment, incentivize larger hotels to offset the demand for STRs.
That's not gonna happen.
Okay.
That's the opposite.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
All right,
I mean, that to me is counterintuitive. It's gonna dump more people in smaller space.
maybe the incentive should be
I don't know why.
more, well-designed, smaller hotels. Something like that.
Well, I mean, that's a well-managed STR.
under housing, I'd like to add maybe a ordinance requiring, you know, a certain size development be required to have a certain percentage of workforce housing within their development.
So which one and what number is it?
Well, that would be under housing and they under H1.
Already there.
Oh, where is that one?
under H1, it's entitled support workforce housing options.
Yeah, but this would be a little bit more specific where you're
Somebody-
actually requiring a
somebody using
percentage.
At a development, you would require a percentage of that to be long term. Where's it gonna go? They're already all-
Well, there's a great big one about to be built. on-
Yeah, there's a whole bunch to come. So I mean, you take it, workforce housing, there's no one silver bullet. You just keep chipping away. You get 2 units here, 5 units here, 10 units here.
Are you talking about another like palladium type?
No, I'm talking about,
Housing.
like in Aspen, when you come in and build a 20-plex, you gotta build 2 units that go to the housing authority. In Aspen, now they buy them, but
Right.
you're still required to provide them.
And the city of Dallas, not to draw a comparison here, but the principle is the same. When the city of Dallas, when these intensified zoning requests come through, they have a percentage. I know it's 10%, but you have to either build them or give money.
Right.
And then the housing authority has a mission, and then they go and they put them in the strategic areas and work with the provider. But so other cities are doing that already. So we could add that. Let's supplement that with, we'll have to write it, but we'll supplement. Anybody disagree with that? Okay, all right, that's good. Now, another one. Anyone else?
Under transportation. Is the new access road next to Cinnamon Shores in there already?
This one, I don't think it's not in there.
One B that we can talk
The new
about.
one, yes.
Well, there's one B and then there's,
I mean, the new one to be created.
yes, that's one B.
Okay, and is it in the plan?
It's not on this map, but it's on the thoroughfare plan, which is also on the impact program.
And then one other question. In, for instance, the residential preservation district, is it possible to consider building feeder streets that go straight out to 361 so that not everyone has to drive the entire length of 11?
That's the idea of it.
Or the.
That is the
entire length?
concept of the slip road.
Okay, but I'm talking about, yeah, in this neighborhood, can you just
Talking right there.
create some streets?
I don't know if there's room.
With
We,
signage that says this way 361, because they go all the way to the end of.
Yeah, I mean, In the 2010 comp plan, we tried to identify as many of those as possible. Like we got Spencer's Landing.
That's it.
But we'd like, we'd like to get more. There's a new development on, towards the last of the vacant big tracks. It'd be great if we could get one right in there where Scott's old Scott's carpet.
Maybe with some signage that
Right in
says
there, I mean,
this way, the town center, to just take people off of these big arteries. And then another question, can we have dedicated golf cart lanes
you can.
where that's where the golf carts are?
I don't.
I love it.
Yeah, right, that's why we're trying to identify special cities, but encourage them to go there. Off the.
Because that's what creates the traffic.
Yeah, there's some new state law that's come in and protected golf carts. Now, you can have golf carts on this county.
Another quick one under housing. Instead of the 600, and I know you could probably do it through a FUD, which maybe I'm just wasting my time because you could do it through a FUD, but some type of workforce housing bunk room where you have shared cooking and stuff like that. So another, a smaller product, if it's for workforce housing, instead of just requiring the, where you have shared common space. So yeah, it's kind of not.
A lot of places.
Yeah, more like a dormitory with shared.
Right, and a lot of places are doing it. The colleges have been doing it for 100 years, it's called dormitory.
Yeah.
But, like, I know in Midland, the housing costs got so bad there, but the county and the school district, we talked about this last time, but the county and school district and the city got together and built an apartment complex. A regular, nice apartment complex, but all they put in it was teachers, firemen and policemen and city workers, county workers, and each entity got so many units based on how much they put in the kitty. And so, I mean, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You can have that.
Maybe the existing FUD would probably allow that concept.
All right. All right, what else what else do we need to change on this? And I agree, let's agree to moderate the large hotels. Let's say something like, you know, more mid-rise, well-designed hotels or condos is really what we want. We don't want something like that. But I agree with that.
And then
I think this one's been-
should be this, improve investing points, low, through low impact solutions. I mean, I don't know how you're prioritizing this when you present it, but those kinds of things, in my opinion, that intersection right there, a lot gets down to why do people get so upset about STRs? Well, it's the noise, but the traffic too, right? So it's like we can hit some of the things that annoy people about STRs, right?
And parking.
Yeah, and parking, right, but I mean, there are some, I think you're correct, low cost opportunities.
And we
for
have it,
helping traffic.
and we have it prioritized right now. Right now, all I'm trying to do is get the list.
Okay,
And then at the end, though, what's gonna happen is we're gonna have a recommendation that the city do these things first.
and then I will also, one last. Well, I don't want to say one last, because, but as a person who rides a bicycle probably more than most people in the city. I would get rid of prioritized bicycle and pedestrian, because you're not gonna get people on bicycle when they're on vacation. I don't believe it, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think so.
Now we have golf cart.
If you could remove the golf carts from the mix, I think the rest of the traffic would sort itself out. It's the
Put a
golf
cap-
carts
golf
being
carts.
mixed into
Put a
it.
cap on both.
And particularly 11th Street. We just can't
Yes.
approve it. Too many golf
It is
carts.
what just creates a gridlock. And
So are
makes
we
it-
gonna put a cap on golf cart license?
We can do that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If we do that, are we gonna prioritize, like long, residents to get golf cart plates first, and then how do you do that, how do you prioritize who gets the golf cart?
You will create a black market.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna-
No, I mean, you will have, people buy up, golf cart sales will say, you get a license plate if you buy a golf cart from us, and they're gonna buy them all up. And so,
I think it's too
I
late.
mean, first of all, you might try to double the price.
Yeah.
Don't pay them.
I think
Double-
we
double
need
the
to
license
increase the
plate.
price.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, double the price. Okay, double the price. Now, whether you can stop them, well, then you create, once you cap them, then you have the black market. So you gotta be careful about that.
Well, if you cap
People
them,
pay more.
if you cap them at a certain point, then it gets stronger.
Yeah.
I know.
It's,
They don't start getting 35,000 for a golf cart.
Yeah.
They don't care about, make it $1,000, I'm still buying.
Exactly, yeah.
I do think you could rate, you keep it $50 for the locals and 200 for, I
I
don't know,
think that's a good idea.
Well, the out of town, so we have ones that people don't live here, they bring it here.
that's true.
So they pull a truck, they have a 20-foot trailer, and then they have a golf cart. They just rented a house that has 4 parking spaces. So now with one truck, they just used up 3 of their spaces with the golf cart, the trailer, their truck. And they got 4 more people showing up to stay in a house. It's 4 parking things. Whatever you want to put there, put it there, and you just have to figure it out.
$500 if you bring it in from out of town.
5,000.
in the next SDR we're staying at, we get a golf cart.
Yes.
And so we're happy,
Have you got one?
I do have a golf cart, and now it's not here.
Oh, okay.
I own the golf cart.
I do too.
Hey, Dan. When you guys registered for your STR, did they notify you about a limitation on vehicles?
They said we had 2 parking spaces.
That's all we have, 2.
Because in front of your rental, you have red striping. And I know it's on here, and I think, Tim, you brought it up in the past, but there's a lot of areas where, and I think you guys already have it on here, but the creative parking management program, like Galveston does, you get a placard and every STR has a certain number, and it's just not unlimited. You can't, a
And you
4
can buy
driveway.
up, so you can buy up your spaces, but
Well, I think we got to really figure out a way to like Galveston does in some of their districts where if you have an SPR and it has 4 on-site parking spots, that's it, man. You're red striped, you have red striped fire zones. And there is no on-street parking unless you have a placard. And like locals would get a placard and maybe some other people can get a placard, but we gotta figure out a way that it's just not unlimited, that you get to rent a 4-bedroom house and 10 cars show up. We gotta figure out a way.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. Okay, all right, so, don't want to be pushy here, but I got 15 minutes. All right, so what else do we need to talk about except environmental, but what else do we need to talk about that we hadn't already talked about?
Community character.
We've already decided that that's very, very important, and we're gonna have standards for it.
Right, but there's a lot of other things, a lot of things involved with, the ark and the Tony Ames beach and tarpon because of land and fishing. I mean, all those are part of our character, and so that all has to be brought into it. Family town, have sand fest, that kind of thing, the stuff that you're doing. And chamber,
There's one line of it, the required coastal architecture design. And so are we thinking about requiring new houses, how they're gonna be built?
Can we do that, Dan?
Yeah.
We cannot do materials.
Okay.
So,
So I think that should be.
Okay.
I mean, everything's gonna look. like-
Cross that one out.
Exactly.
Sorry.
All right, well, good.
can we avoid cookie cutter things?
Yes, exactly. We can encourage,
Right.
When we get rid of the flower baskets on the street lights or whatever, that just doesn't work. Maybe a tarpon or something, but flower baskets.
We don't even have street lights.
All right, that was gone. All right, that was gone. When you come from the last city, you went to, probably did not.
Tom, is that?
Should there be something that pertains to the school? I mean, I'm just saying, that is part of the community yard out there. I mean, I don't see anything related to the school, and I mean, I know the school has their own, but I mean, still, we as a city, this is our comprehensive plan. Should there be something, a section that just talks about in general how we support the school and?
I think we should add that under public facility.
That's what I mean, and public facilities, you can have a school section and maybe.
And because if we talk about what we're trying to do for residents and people that live here, the schools, I say we're the heart and soul of
You're a partner.
touristy, right?
Sure you are.
And so folks, right, and so we have a great partnership with the city, second to none. But does that need to be somehow reflected in here? Because, honestly, there's a lot of other influences trying to attack public schools, and I think that would be extremely detrimental to our community if those were to prevail, so, yeah.
I think I move that be added.
Yes.
Nobody opposed, added. Okay, added. What else?
Well, I don't think we ought to put a pedestrian park boardwalk on the beach, you can't do that.
I think I agree with Joan on that.
Pedestrian
Environmental
boardwalk on the beach.
disaster.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
How about completely speaking on the jet?
Now, boardwalk out. What else?
If you want, see long-term rent control requirements, or instead of how are we gonna do requirements? Are we gonna say you can't increase your, rent of attendance more than this % per year? I see incentives to incentivize, landlords to keep fair rents, but
I tell you what, rent control has been done up in the Northeast for a long time, but in Texas.
Texas,
It's a new concept.
yeah. I mean, New York City has it, they have a.
They do.
Yeah,
They do.
but this is Texas, right, so.
Why don't we, anybody opposed to taking that out? It's something, don't we have a bigger dragon to slay somewhere? Okay.
More palm trees.
Yeah.
We can have required landscaping, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can
We,
require.
it's amazing what we've lost from the freeze
We can do that.
and the hurricane. We've lost so many trees from those two events. You lost 17 in the freeze or the hurricane?
What do you, David, what do you want, if somebody's gonna do a small, now, where we're staying, what's the name of the place we're staying? Rock from there, anybody know where that is on Robertson? Now, they came in, and it looks like they put a bunch of palm trees in, and they look great. Was that required, or did they do that voluntarily?
That
That was volunteer.
was voluntary.
Yeah.
Well, we should require that. That looks real, we should do more of that.
I think it's, when you talk scale. And you have, like Port Aransas, like this area in here, Avenue A, C, 6, Gulf, 7. It's amazing how everything's 1 to 2 story. And when you have palm trees being the highest thing visible in your skyline, it really
Makes it nice.
makes you feel good. And if we could do that, there's a lot of places where palm trees are missing.
That's
You
what
drive
required
down,
in Mary's presidential
there
district.
you go.
Yeah.
But I think,
That
I
three
think that really
pieces of
helps.
palm tree, and they're all.
Helps with scale and it helps your mindset having a bunch of palm trees taller than all the buildings.
Yeah, like when you drive into Orange, that whole line of palm trees.
Not a lot of them are bothered by it.
But what about, you can't put it down on the medium of the highway, you know?
No,
No.
text dot.
Lorenzo's passed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Galveston does.
Where did the Francis?
I'd be glad for any tree.
Any tree. So we're gonna add some landscaping requirements to Mary's presidential district.
President.
Resident.
President.
Resident.
All right, so we're gonna do that. Yes, sir.
We really need to keep public safety high on the list.
Okay.
I mean, as we grow, we still have fire department EMS in temporary buildings. We probably need to really move towards a paid fire department. It's something,
Here's what I would do.
this kind of growth, it needs to stay.
I would say the city needs to do a public facilities needs assessment where there's people that come in and they're usually architects that come in and can do your needs assessment on what kind of facilities and all that. But there's general standards of so many police per population per capita and all that, firemen, all that kind of stuff. The problem is you got the imbalance of winter time and summertime. And that's kind of hard to do, but I think we ought to put that in there and say, a special study. And here again, I don't do it, but some kind of a study that will assess that and tell you how to,
Especially as we expand south, I mean,
right. I think you need to do that, okay? I agree, everybody in favor of that? Move, approve, done. Okay, what else? We should have been doing this the first hour.
See how good you are running these things.
I'm horrible at it, and I accept it. All right, what else?
It's on
Yes, sir.
permeability or drainage issues.
Let's wrap that into environmental. Hold that thought. We're gonna say,
Oh, that's
Mary,
Mary, it is environmental.
yeah, okay. All right, anything else except for environmental, anything else that we need to change to get it in the ballpark? Now, this is not the last chance to learn. We just gotta get something in the ballpark.
Next question, under H3A, supporting existing neighborhoods, limit building height to 2 stories. Is that in everywhere else besides Old Town?
I
Or
would say that would be in the conservation, in the preservation.
because in the preservation district, you have one that says limit by building heights to 3 stories, so.
I think it's 2 now. We
I
talked
think
about
we're
it.
changing Old Town.
No, this is under Old Town.
Old Town.
Yeah, but I think that's,
Change it to 2?
I think we move that broader.
Got it.
Based on.
So this other one is just for Old Town, not the whole county.
The problem with the 2-story thing is our parking requirements.
Yeah.
You need that space under the house.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what,
I mean,
there,
that's very, very small.
you have a good point. Actually, I think the insurance industry is gonna weigh in on this. And they're gonna gradually require you to have a higher base elevation. I just see it coming. They're gonna require you to go up. So we're gonna have to word that in a way that we can deal with that lower area. And maybe the parking is another way to get more parking. We're gonna have to figure that out. That's a pesky thing. It is.
You need that parking.
That's pesky. We thought about that. I don't have a solution to that
We
yet.
recommend removing it from this one because we already have it And, under LU one, it's in 2 places and it's,
take it out of which one?
H3.
Done. Got, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So,
And the 3
Alright.
changed to 6.
Yes.
all right, what else?
We're into the environment.
We're gonna save 2 minutes for the environment, Harry.
What else is new?
I think part of it, I think the internet and cell phone service.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's on here, but again, it needs to be emphasized because.
Well, that could be a priority,
Right.
but we're not really in the priority yet, but it's on there. Do you think we should word it differently or something, or, is it not? It's on there. Do we need to put more on it?
I mean, we got.
Okay.
It's on there, it's,
We may need to deal with that when we talk about priorities towards the end. Okay. Anything else?
We're gonna send
Review
things.
beach parking, camping fees, I'm totally for raising our parking to $20 if it's at all possible. I got no problem, I don't know why we haven't done it already.
Anybody not want to raise beach parking to $20? And we don't have to say the amount. We can just say raise.
We're at 14 or 12 right now.
well,
You know, everybody comes in with down 1 to 20.
Why don't we don't want this many?
You get positive, you get Nueces County a little.
Well, you have a permit and you just make the permits more affordable. And cities do that with like,
I think you can put on, I think the same thing to put on there is, you know, we have 2 partners, Nueces County, City of Corpus Christi. So you could just say something like review and reassess beach parking fees.
I thought y'all done Corpus though. so-
We're attempting to.
Right, because if we raise it, then they are.
did you get that? Erica? Okay. All right. Anything else? Because we've got to leave some time for Mary, but what else besides that we need to get right? Because we got a lot of changes to make and we're gonna have to, and y'all may have some more.
So we can make comments.
You can make,
And-
you got a 2, the teacher says you got 2 weeks to get your comments to Nicole, and Nicole gets them to Erica, or you can send them straight to Erica. The people on the committee have Erica's email, and she's on clearinghouse. So you got 2 weeks to add anything else.
one big question.
Yes, sir.
What's the beach management plan? What's that? big
Oh,
thing?
Coastal management plan.
Okay, so how is that gonna relate to this and are the 2 gonna coincide?
Well, that.
It's almost, it's a separate monster.
It's a federal requirement, it's a federal requirement.
There are things in here that we want to contain there that can address the things in here. And maybe that comes as prioritization here, then we push to the beach management plan. I don't know, but anyway.
Let us check on that one. Coastal zone management.
All right, environment.
Yeah, maybe an environment, we'll wrap that around. Okay, so I think we have enough to do a lot of revisions, but clearly we got a whole bunch to change and adjust, and we'll send that back out. But you got 2 weeks.
After you send it out.
No.
No.
Now, you gotta get it, and we're gonna make all the changes and then we'll send it back out. And we're unfortunately, we're gonna have to do it by email. But when we get all your changes, we're gonna make all the changes and send it back out, and we're gonna ask you, is this close enough to go for September 20th
To the public.
to the public? And like I say, the public can say no, yay or nay, but we gotta do this, otherwise we're gonna waste a lot. You can already see, if we have written this up in a certain way, how much time we've wasted. But we're gonna have to get it closed, we're gonna have to ask the public, if we can get it closed before we write all this up. And that's what we're trying to do. So we'll make the revisions to the goals and objectives and strategies. We'll send it back out to you, and you all will have to tell us if we hit it or missed it, because clearly we missed it last time. You're gonna have to tell us that, okay? Everybody on board with that homework assignment?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Okay, now, we used up all our time, and we don't have any more time to talk about environment. Oh, wait a minute, okay, all right, now, Mary, would you, in fairness, would you like to make some opening, comments about what you think would be appropriate for the comprehensive plan from an environmental standpoint?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the floor is yours.
I looked at the guiding principles before I went through all of this other stuff, because I think they're right on. The 5 guiding principles that are set forth are solid. And number 2 is protect the natural environment. Yet when I read through all of here, I just really don't see us focusing at all on protecting the natural environment. I mean, there's a few things here and there, like the stormwater management plan and the drainage master plan. Yes, great, and that is part of it. It impacts the environment. Disaster mitigation and recovery needs, that to me is infrastructure maybe more, but there's just really not much that talks about protecting the environment. And so I think that we need to recognize the importance of natural resources and a vibrant ecosystem to both tourists and residents, and develop a plan to preserve all of the natural areas under the city, under the control of the city. I know that we've maybe cut out a little section for a beach marina. We've talked about possibly using some of the 67 acres for workforce housing. And if that
Is
is,
there a larger area
yes, there is a
next to it?
larger area.
that is preserved?
Yes, and if that is done, if that's carved out of that area, then it should be for very limited uses with minimal impact development, dedicated natural areas paid for by the developers, and conformance to an overall nature preserve plan, which has trails and, you know, future things that we're gonna do with that area. We're talking 20 years from now, and if we start making too many inroads into that, there's not going to be the natural resources here in the future that there are now.
Well, okay, if we want to be responsive to Mary's proposal, what we might say is, I don't know how many acres are left there outside of the proposed marina area, but let's just say it's X. We
Well,
got
1,200 acres.
a pretty good area. And couldn't we say that that area should be developed as a, and we'll figure out a name. We have some, but a wildlife, mitigation.
It already has all of it. There's already a full-blown nature preserve document that regulates the whole.
Is that adequate? Is that adequate?
I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen that document recently, but what I'm saying is, we're already talking about cutting little pieces out of the marina.
Whoa. We're not cutting that out. That's been in existence since 1994 as a marina, so we're not cutting that out. It's always been there. It predates the nature preserve.
But what I'm saying is that we need to make the smallest intrusions into that area. And
You're not allowed.
I think we're not supposed to do that.
No, there's already a governing document that states what you're just saying.
well, we've talked about in this group, taking out a little bit more maybe for workforce housing and.
No, that's part of the 67 acres.
I'm talking about the 67.
Yeah, but that's not nature preserve. That was bought in 1994.
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that it's under the control of the city. It's a natural area under the control of the city. And we should preserve as much of it as we can, including the 67 acres. I don't think we need to develop the entire 67 acres. That's Charlie's pasture.
Well, I think you're wrong. You need to look at a map of it, and the marina basin that the Corps permit is almost the entire 67 acres. Actually, it's not 67 acres. It's a whole lot less from erosion. And it's really not 67, but I mean, compared to its next door neighbor, the 1,200 acre nature preserve, that's the nature preserve. The 67 acres is not a nature preserve. It's not part of the nature preserve.
I didn't say it was.
It was purchased for,
All right.
yeah, it was purchased for marina and marina support.
And I'm also saying that we need to take action as a city, active, which we are doing now, but continue to protect the adjacent water areas and their wildlife from harmful industrial and commercial development and shoreline erosion. Which, you know, is the port and everything else going on there. The city needs to make a commitment to be actively involved in trying to limit and eliminate that,
So.
and it's not in here.
So I gotta get my head around this. So what you're saying is that, first of all, there's 1,200 acres. Let's just say that's 1,200 acres outside of the 66 for the marina. But that area should be preserved and erosion protection, all the things to protect that and develop it as a wildlife management area, ecologically sensitive area. So that's one of your requests. But you have another request that says we should do the same thing with the 67 acres.
In my opinion, yes.
Now-
I think the marina there is just a can of worms, to build it in.
Okay, well,
But, you know.
all right, the committee's got to tell me what to do.
We just voted on that about 30 minutes ago. We said yes, we all said yes to the marina.
Is there anybody that wants to change their direction to us based on what? Mary, I'm trying to give you some.
I understand.
But is there anybody that wants to change anything based on what Mary said? And I'm not trying to throw Mary under the bus here, but do we want to do anything different for the betterment of Fort Aransas?
Well, I'm asking that we make a commitment, that we state how important it is,
I
and
agree.
do not make any future.
And I don't think we ought to nibble away at the 1,200 acres. I don't think that we need to nibble away at that. And I think we're saying that 1,200 acres or the 1,200 acres.
They're protected.
They're protected. We're not gonna nibble on the 1,200 acres.
What she was talking about originally was the 67.
Well,
that's
but-
part of it.
All right, but
Hey, I got.
I've already been told the 67 is gonna be a marina.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So
accept that.
tell me I'm wrong. Tell me.
And then I also think we should, actively develop ecotourism. And
Well, I agree with
the
that.
city and the chamber should.
But can't we do that on places like 1,200 acres? We don't.
We do that now, we do. There's a lot.
There's a lot more.
No, I didn't do very good at that, Mary. I know in the class, but anyway, all right, so the way this is gonna go then, because it's consensus, is we're gonna kind of strengthen the discussion about ecotourism and protecting things like the 1,200 acres, even though I think maybe we already have it. But let's say we're gonna have to figure out some more technical words, but we're not gonna nibble away at it. And we're gonna try to protect those areas, and ecotourism is important for those because that's the reason we're protecting.
I think you need to add all the Bayside wetlands to that discussion.
Yes.
I think you need, I think,
Right out here, you got more than 1,200 acres.
I think,
You're a winner.
I think we need to add the beach.
right, well, yeah, I mean.
The beach. Where do you think-
The dunes and all that, well,
Yeah.
I think the dunes are protected already.
Well, there's already
Wow.
intrusions into the beach.
Not
You can see
really.
them. Where do they are?
I don't think you can get in there and take those dunes.
Well, they're doing it, I mean, I did it.
The coastal management plan protects the dunes. That is the dunes, that is the state authorized mechanism for dune protection.
I would say what should be added is natural wetlands. Whether it's
Yeah,
on the bayside
Yeah.
or within town for that matter. That at least some of the wetlands be protected enough to put a buffer, that they don't all be wiped out and destroyed like happened recently on one of them, so.
Okay, I agree with that.
And I think.
Okay, let's do that.
We've done a horrible job at promoting or.
I've got an ordinance.
I know, I do too.
Times of time, all those things are impacted. So I think Mary's got a point. It's not that we want to do this. We gotta do better at campaigns. We gotta get the business,
No doubt.
we gotta get the visitors out there.
This some of the stuff that she's on, that shouldn't be relevant anyway. That's what's gotten places in trouble.
And it's gonna get us in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's kind of.
So let's draw the line and say there. I hate to say this, but the 67 acres, that's shit's already sailed. You know, and so I'm sorry about that, but we can't, we gotta start somewhere, and I think starting at the 1,200 acres. And what about all this area in here? All that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
There's
All the wetlands. back there.
I don't agree with you. I hadn't heard anybody said no on that.
We're awful.
Right. And I didn't expect anybody to object to it. I know the 67 acres is
Okay.
different.
Would you know, please?
I'm just saying all of it, the beach, the wetlands, the existing neighborhoods are without chipping away, because that's what development pressure is, chipping away, chipping away. Yeah.
Does anybody disagree with that? Yeah, thank you. You got that? All right.
I think though, Mary's point is important, this is gonna be sold to the community. Our number 2 goal is to protect natural environment. It's not prominent.
Exactly.
It's
That's
not
my-
prominent. It needs to be
So,
prominent.
Can we agree to this? Can we agree to move, can we agree to move that up to it's at least, we're not setting priorities right now, but at least maybe earlier in the list, would that be helpful? Like, even, we're not really, we're not trying to prioritize, you know, but I do agree that it ought to be prominent.
Yeah, because what's shown here now, we changed this from protect environmentally sensitive areas to promote low impact development strategies. That's a good thing too. Buffers, building setbacks, those are all good things also. But protecting the environment doesn't show up in this document. So it's.
Right, I mean, we're a fishing city, we're a beach city, we're a nature reserve city. We're about the water. We want all of that clean as we can get it. We want it protected. I think that's super
I
important.
think we're gonna
I
add
mean,
that.
it's what we're all about. I think
We're gonna add that to the whole new category.
So
Well-
can we do another wetlands ordinance?
Well, I mean,
You might wanna look, I tell you what, we might
Trump
want
just
to.
undid the wetland ordinance.
I still have it. We never did it.
We can't
Well,
do it.
I mean, it's,
I almost had it.
it's your president.
No, you.
It's not us.
We need a prominent category.
Yeah.
I think that's what the citizens are gonna look for.
Right.
As Dave says it very well, this is a destination where people come to fish, go to the beach, enjoy nature. That's gotta be prominent in the document so people understand.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that, and Eric has already written. it. Okay, does anybody not want to do that? Okay. All right, good. All right, now, we're a little over, but I know this is hard, and I'm not a very good chairman. But we've done the best we can, but we got clearly some more work to do. We gotta get this shined up, and it's not shined up. So we're gonna try to shine it up. You got 2 weeks to do your homework. There's some people that get gold stars. And although we didn't agree with everything that Mary said, she has been giving us information, she's been doing her homework. So she should be commended.
Well, her
Some of
last
you
name has
others-
gold in it, so. I
So some of you others, we haven't heard from, and we're not gonna name names. Because we don't wanna hurt the students, you know. Students are the boss of me in this case. So, but please give us any comments that you want. But here's where we're going with this. The next steps is we're trying to get a document shined up, not all written, because this is what we're gonna go, and what I'm gonna try to present and sell to the public on the 20th. And you're gonna help. But this is what we're gonna say. This is what we're building your comprehensive plan around. And if it doesn't say this in this, you need to tell us, are we on or off? And that's why it's important to get this ready for the 20th, because then the whole plan is gonna be crafted around this, right?
Right.
Right, okay. So, does everybody understand this? This is really important. We're at a point where we gotta get this the way we want it, and the we is both of us. Any other comments? Before we close? And I'm gonna have to come up, and apologize to Mary. But anyway, we all did good, and I appreciate but that's all we have. We got more to do, but we'll hang around and chat, anybody wants to chat, and, thank you all. I know it's hard, but it's real important. Thank you. That's all I got.
No, we got it. We got it.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I'd like to see. I do.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think they go out there. I mean, it's like.
Yeah, I think we are.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Some whole.
Well,
We'll give you. Yeah.
I know, I had.
You know what? We got another 5 minutes. How did y'all? In San Antonio. Well, the man has 3 calls. I can read it. But how about what? Now the 4, because the 88 was. The 88 was big. Lost one. Girls get more, so you could. So you don't know what the legislature said. So it's not involved. And I don't think.
I get what you're saying, I know what you're going for, but it's not to say anything written in stone.
It's the 5%.
That was my observation.
On the chart, just put that on the SDR stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you got it all wrong, just totally wrong.
When you were shooting at Nicholson. When they were saying, oh, well, you know, it's not for taking time to worry about it. Because they're gonna have something involved. And they may very well, I know that. And I know.
Whoa.